Why do many people stubbornly defend their opinions and beliefs, even in the face of overwhelming evidence that their ideas and opinions are completely wrong? Your worldview, including beliefs and opinions, begins to form in childhood. When you are socialized in a particular cultural context, it is reinforced over time by the social groups you belong to, the media you consume, and even how your brain works. It affects how you think about yourself and how you interact with the world. For many people, a challenge to their worldview feels like an attack on their personal identity and can make them more resilient. Here are some studies that explain why it's natural to resist changing your thinking and how you can make these changes better. Cognition is simply thinking and reasoning. It is the mental process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, reason, analysis of information, and experience. In psychology, cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort of a person simultaneously holding two or more beliefs, conflicting ideas, or values. The discomfort is caused by the situation in which a person's beliefs conflict with new evidence presented to that person. To reduce psychological discomfort, the person will have to change his or her thoughts or behavior so that the conflict is resolved, thereby restoring mental balance and emotional harmony. Therefore, people continually reduce cognitive dissonance to align their beliefs with their actions, thereby maintaining psychological consistency and feeling less mentally stressed. Economist J.K. Galbraith once wrote, faced with a choice between changing one's mind and proving that there is no need to do so, most people are busy proving. Leo Tolstoy was even bolder. The most difficult subjects can be explained to the slowest person if he has not yet formed any idea of them, but the simplest thing cannot be made clear to the most intelligent person if he is convinced that he already knows, without a shadow of a doubt, what was laid before him. But what's going on here? Why doesn't the truth change our minds? And why would someone continue to believe in a false or inaccurate idea? How do such behaviors serve us? This phenomenon, first described by Leon Festinger in 1957, helps explain why so many people will vigorously defend, justify, and uphold their sacred beliefs, even when faced with irrefutable evidence that they are wrong. However, truth and accuracy are not the only things that matter to the human mind. Humans also seem to have a deep desire to belong. In Atomic Habits, James Clear wrote, "Humans are herd animals. We want to fit in, to bond with others, and to earn the respect and approval of our peers. Such inclinations are essential to our survival. For most of our evolutionary history, our ancestors lived in tribes. Becoming separated from the tribe or worse, being cast out was a death sentence. In many cases, social connections are more useful to your daily life than understand the truth of a particular event or idea." The Harvard psychologist Steven Pinker put it this way: "People are embraced or condemned according to their beliefs. So one function of the mind may be to hold beliefs that bring the belief holder the greatest number of allies, protectors, or disciples, rather than beliefs that are most likely to be true." We don't always believe things because they are true. Sometimes we believe things because they make us look good. in the eyes of the people we care about. Kevin Simler expressed this very clearly, saying, if a brain anticipates that it will be rewarded for adopting a particular belief, it's perfectly happy to do so, and doesn't much care where the reward comes from, whether it's pragmatic, better outcomes resulting from better decisions, social better treatment from one's peers, or some mix of the two. False beliefs can be socially useful, even if they are not practically useful. When faced with a choice between two perspectives, people tend to choose friends and family over the truth. It may be factually wrong, but socially accurate. This insight doesn't just explain why we may be silent at dinner parties or looking away when a parent says something offensive, but also reveals a better way to change other people's minds. But the question that arises here is, should we interfere with other people's perceptions or not? Is it really necessary and useful when we try to analyze and prove it to the person next to us about a certain concept that is considered closer to the truth than the other person's personal opinion? Through a series of experiments, it was found that some people do not have the necessary self-awareness to know that they did something wrong or misjudged a situation in some important way. One obstacle to admitting mistakes is the psychological barrier of repression and stress when self-image is threatened. Images that appear weak and vulnerable may appear at the same time when an assumption arises in their mind about admitting those mistakes. When standing from the perspective of a person who is suffering from cognitive condemnation and bias about admitting errors in thinking, may cause them to refuse to acknowledge such deviant views, and in any way, they will quickly consider various pieces of evidence to add to their defenses. And what could almost certainly happen next is cognitive dissonance. It is the psychological tension a person experiences when faced with two conflicting ideas or beliefs. They are confused when their worldview and values are challenged by actions taken against them. Let's say you've had a heated argument with your spouse about a transgression that they consider much worse than you do. To cope in that situation, you may object and refuse to admit the truth. You can come up with excuses to turn the situation around and preserve your image. Above are a few typical examples describing the behaviors, attitudes, and trends that can occur in cases where facts cannot change perceptions. But if it were you, how would you reduce your cognitive dissonance? In an interview with NBC News, neuropsychologist Dr. Sanam Hafiz defined ego as a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance, and our egos like to win, no matter what argument it's in. The ego's control also extends to what experts call psychological reactions. Not many people actually like being told what to do. Cleveland Clinic behavioral health therapist Jane Pomoto Ehrman explains, resistance is ingrained into our culture and brains from a young age. Everyone has some form of inner rebel that likes to question or do the opposite of what we're told. A 2012 study found that refusing to apologize can boost your self-esteem and lead to increased feelings of power, control, and valuing integrity. The authors explain this may be because apologies give more power to those who receive them. However, the ego boosts from rejection can be short-lived and can damage your relationships and cause backlash. Ehrman said, as adults, it's important to recognize when our rebellious self is acting out in a way that's not in our best interest, or if it might be harmful to those around us. When we feel a powerful surge of resistance, it's usually us trying to protect our ego, because we don't want to look vulnerable. Not admitting obvious mistakes also makes you less inclined to improve yourself. Of course, some people don't have the will to get better and know it. Studies have shown that it is important for a person to feel they can change their behavior before admitting what they did wrong. You may think that some people never admit their mistakes. Life seems to pass by like unrepentant bulldozers. However, psychologists believe that even such people tend to accumulate feelings of guilt and shame in the subconscious, mental gnawing that can eventually turn into anxiety and depression. Frankly, admitting that our point of view is flawed does not mean that our awareness is immature. That act of courage can feel liberating and empowering for you and everyone in your life on the path toward a better future.